Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Respawn Station. My name is Suri, and today I'm joined by Nick.
Hello.
For our discussion of Biomutant. This game was originally announced back in 2017 during Gamescom, but now is finally out as of last Tuesday, May 25th, if I remember correctly. And this game has had a kind of a weird production. I mean, it's made by a very small team. I believe it's 25 people over at Experiment 101, and it's published by THQ Nordic, which shout out to the publishers for giving us a copy of this game to review, which is exactly what Nick has been doing for the past few days. He's been putting some hours into the game, and today, this is not the full review, by the way. This is when I talk about what he thinks of it. I'm going to throw some questions at him, moderate it, and stuff like that. We'll see how it goes. Also, one last thing. Nick is streaming his screen to me, so don't expect this to look like you're playing it right now, live feed or whatever. This is on the PlayStation 5, but it is the PlayStation 4 version, and I think that's all the preamble that I have. Nick, take it away. What do you? First of all, what is Biomutant about?
So, Biomutant, at least, just to preface for everybody, I've put about 9 hours into the game right now. And Biomutant is it's a lot of things. So, how I'll distill it in hopefully the easiest way possible is that it's an open world action game with RPG elements and a light emphasis on story.
Oh, really?
Yeah, at least so far. I haven't really gotten a whole lot of there's not really any audio logs or that sort of thing.
Now, I've heard that the game, you can jump into the gameplay, by the way, so you can
Sure.
play.
I actually just wanted to ask you just real quick.
Oh, yes.
If we want to start a new game or just load up my save file.
No, you can just load up your save file, explore, do some kind of show us the world a little bit. So first of all, starting off, I've heard that it can go anywhere from 15 hours if you just kind of beeline the story to around 60 hours or more if you do everything else. What's been your method here? Are you going for the story, or is it more you're kind of exploring whatever it is you have? The story is as powerful.
So basically,
who's that talking in the background?
So yeah, that's a very important character. This game has a narrator.
I'm just gotta say, you look it looks like a little kid trying to be intimidating.
Yeah, exactly. Here, there we go. There's a better look at my character.
Deadeye is a tricky, skillful rogue. Okay, nice. This is a lot going on. Wong Fu perks, aura, mutations. Walk us through it. However you want to take it. I'm here.
Exactly. So, from the start of the game, basically, or how I've been approaching it is I'm just sort of naturally moving through the game like I do any other open world. Whenever these types of games come out, I don't try to beeline and skip all of the, side content and all that. I like to naturally discover a lot of stuff, and I like to try to experience the majority of the content, but I'm not going to go for 100%. I'm not going to hit everything, obviously. I think a very small amount of people actually do end up going for that stuff. To give you an idea of the map here, this is about what I've explored that's colored.
Oh, okay.
And the rest is the rest of the open world to my knowledge. So it is a pretty sizable world. And like I said, I put about 9 hours in, and this is about the extent of what I've explored.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay, so is this a situation where, I mean, that's what you've covered, maybe a fourth, a third of the map, that it looks like you're putting on a 30 hour journey so far.
Probably. That's more like what I would be looking at, as a healthy estimate. But we'll hop out into this train yard just to get a little bit of a different scenery here.
It looks very vibrant, though, I will say.
Yeah, it's a very colorful game. Visually speaking, it's not from like a graphical fidelity standpoint, it is not like super super high. Like you can see, like it doesn't look bad, obviously, but uh, like sometimes whenever you see these bushes, I don't know how well you can tell over
Oh
that
yes,
video
I can
stream.
definitely see it's like a 2D image, like it's a 2D image just kind of laid out and trying to make it look like 3D.
Yeah, there's like stuff like that, like a lot of like clipping and like there'll be like random stuff like that, but like at the end of the day, I mean that stuff doesn't
I mean, yeah,
really
it's also,
ruin
I
an
mean,
experience all that much.
it's an interesting thing to juggle, and obviously we're going to try to not spoil your review too much. And this is,
Mhm.
by the way, if you're only a third of the way into your journey, the chance of your opinion changing about this game are very high. There's a lot that you still have to kind of go through, I'm sure. By the way, Nightmare Fuel in chat says character does look pretty badass.
Well, thank you. I'm sort of trying to go for like a Dante Devil May Cry sort of thing.
Oh, I can see that.
The one thing that's really nice about this game, like I do want to get into some of the random mechanics and stuff, but there is a loot system in the game.
Mm.
Uh, and there's a lot of different cosmetics.
Oh
So you can
wow, you
see
got
here,
you
like,
got quite a collection here.
yeah, you can get a whole bunch of
Is that
different types
Sonic?
of like hats,
That
helmets.
was straight up. That was definitely Sonic.
This one right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can all sorts of different hats. There's face coverings. I don't have any of these yet.
Mm.
But there's different torsos, different shirts. Like some of them are more like, like this is like a combat vest, whereas some of these are just like t-shirts. So there is like a lot of different types of looking, you know, items and stuff, which is pretty neat.
Oh,
I
like
have
those
seen
cowboy
some
boots or cowboy
duplicates,
pants.
so it's not like every item you're getting is completely different, but uh, there is a lot of variety, at least in how you can make your biomutant look, which is pretty nice.
I see the crafting. Is that for like just like items to eat, or is there more crafting in the game?
So you can craft. I haven't delved too crazy into the crafting. It looks like, seeing as you can use a lot of the same stuff
Oh, okay.
here, you can modify different clothing items with, different mods basically that'll do different things. Um, doesn't look like. Oh yeah, okay. So if you see on the right side there, the green number is what's increasing by the mod on the armor.
Hmm.
So like this skirt here that we have, it starts at an armor rank of 12, and if I apply one of these mods, it'll boost up the armor. Um,
Gotcha.
the thing that I did play around with a little bit more is this crafting system also extends to the weapons. So you can craft new weapons, you can go into your weapons and modify things like the handles, you can
Oh,
modify the
wow.
blades. So you can do a whole lot of different stuff with the crafting. I'm trying to save up some resources and get some one-handed melee weapons because whenever I play games like this, I'm not usually the type to use a two-handed, but my class started with this at default.
Hmm.
So it's kind of the thing that I've been using. But in addition to the melee weapon, as you can see at the top, there's also guns, and this stuff also extends to the guns, different magazines, different parts of your weapons that change how they look and act. So,
Oh, that's pretty cool. I wasn't expecting that kind of a deep, crafting weapon crafting system. I expected it
yeah,
to be like just kind of a Breath of the Wild esque kind of craft some soup or whatever, and have it for
right.
health.
Yeah, this is the crafting and the gear and loot and all that is where a lot of the RPG kind of elements come in because it's a lot of, I mean, just look at the side of the screen there. It's a bunch of stats and stuff like that. Um, there's also some light RPG elements in conversation. Like sometimes you can have like different dialogue options. I mean, as you were mentioning, there's like consumables and stuff like that. So you'll like find like random pills and stuff like that,
Nice. Okay.
um, health kits, that sort of thing. But as far as like the food goes, like at least from what I've experienced, most of it is just kind of like these health items. Like there is some food that you'll grab from enemies, but it just falls into this like healing energy buff sort of menu.
Gotcha. So one thing I was going to say earlier, I think you can. let's see the map again, or not the map, the world again. We can explore. And so this is made by a pretty small crew. I think it's about 25 people. I'm not 100% sure on it, but I mean, it is impressive that they made such a large map. But it almost makes you wonder, from what I'm hearing, like quantity over quality. Like if it would have benefited from being a smaller. Oh, it's a little chest. Being a smaller map that's a little bit more polished, then, because this feels like like this looks very, very large. I don't know how you'd compare it in terms of other, other open worlds that you've played. I know you've played quite a few open world games, but this looks very, very massive.
Hmm. Uh, yeah, I don't want to speak too heavily before, I get into the latter half of the game, but all I'll say, at least at this point, the game is definitely quite an ambitious undertaking for a small team. Um, I mean, I think calling any open world game is an ambitious game or is an ambitious idea just in general.
Yeah,
Uh, Specifically with the amount of stuff that I've experienced just in the first beginning hours of this game, it definitely seems like they are trying to do a lot, and some of it is good, and some of it I think could have used, a little bit more of a focus or a little bit more refinement, if that makes sense.
yeah, okay. So let's zone in on what the story is about, just in general, and you're also going to say something about um, the person that was talking in the background. All right, here's
Yeah,
my
sure.
guess. Here's my guess. This is a kid's story tale. That's what I'm going to say. Is that the story? It's a bedtime
N-
story, and long ago. That's what it sounds like, at least.
Not exactly. In regards to like the here, hold on. I'm just trying to find something here that we can go do. There's a bunch of different quests. So there's these side quests, which are smaller sort of
Wow,
things, and
you
then the
this
main
just stacked
quests.
up on the side
Yeah,
quests.
yeah. There's a lot of these. Like you'll see these like 1 out of 6, 1 out of 5. It's sort of like uh I don't want to say it's sort of like a Ubisoft game, but like in a style of Ubisoft. Like if, say, for instance, if you're playing like a Far Cry game, and on the map they would mark like where all the crocodiles are for
Oh
you to get
yeah,
like pelts. These are
totally. Yeah.
kind of what these are. Like these. Let's see here. The eye boxes. It's basically a cute term for a TV. You'll go and you'll solve a little bit like a little puzzle to turn the TV on. Um, Basically, and like some of these items, like there's one for microwaves in here somewhere. I think they're called fry sparkers. Those are the microwaves. Whenever you solve the puzzle, it'll give you some loot.
Flush
So
stools, is that a toilet?
yeah.
Clothes soakers, a washing machine, I guess.
Mm-hmm. uh you're picking up on a lot of these, like they have like a lot of goofy terms and stuff for items of the old world, because this is sort of like a post-apocalypse sort of game.
I think I was
You're
talking
like
to
the
I think I was talking to Austin about it because he seemed pretty interested, and he described it as a because I said the term, it's a post-apocalypse or a post-apocalyptic game, and he corrected me and said it's a post-apocalyptic game.
Right. I believe that is the term that the developers are going for.
So is this like people have died from like a nuclear war or something, and then like a little
Basically.
furry animals have taken over?
So the hook of the story basically is that there was this corporation called I think it's like Toxicol or Toxinol, and they were like a corporation that was obsessed with uh like energy production, and like there's a couple of these like towns that you'll come across that they built up and then discarded quickly and moved on to the next thing. So they have like a reputation of just sort of being wasteful and not caring for the environment. And that's a big theme of the game that's being shared almost at every point that there's like a story bit, is that, you know, this old world was, very, very wasteful. They weren't caring about the environment.
It's a
And
cautionary
then,
tale of some sort.
yeah. And at the end of their time was when our time began. So basically, all of their issues started our world. And so far, I haven't seen any humans or anything. It's all creatures that are kind of like this. If I go into the map up here, there's different tribes in the game, sort of like different factions. And each one, like you can see in here, they have a like an aligning with a sort of like a moral compass meter, which also plays a role in the game. Different actions that you do will give you either light or dark aura, and that'll sort
Oh,
of
okay, like a
affect
morality
different
system.
things. Yeah, I haven't seen the full extent of what exactly changes, other than in the upgrades. If you let me remember which one it's in exactly. I think it's mutations. Yeah. Certain upgrades have a requirement of a certain type of aura. So, like if you see here, to get this move, the telekinesis, you need a dark aura of 20. So if
Oh,
you're
you know what?
specking
Yeah,
into a light aura, you probably just won't ever be able to get this move.
very reminiscent of something like Infamous. I feel like I've definitely seen that kind of. The
Right.
powers are limited based on. It's basically, I'd imagine, to encourage multiple playthroughs. As one is good, one is bad, type of thing.
Yeah, similar sort of just like RPG trappings, like, try a different character build, that sort of thing.
that, that's that is the
Yeah, it's the swim animation because I don't think you're a very good swimmer.
yeah. It looks it's like fighting for your life. So I did. I don't think I've mentioned it since in this episode. This narrator likes to talk. And I did cover this game, the release of this game for the site, and I just went and pulled it up real fast. So the kind of description that we got was the new world is ending. A plague is poisoning the land, and the tree of life is bleeding, and the various tribes that inhabit the world are divided. How it ends, if it ends, and who will die are determined by your actions. Are you noticing? First of all, that's a lot of stuff. Is this so? I imagine you're kind of stretched. I mean, it's multiple. I don't think that you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the tree of life bleeding. I don't think it directly. Maybe like the plague that's poisoning the land. I don't think those are really connected. Are they like different kind of storylines in one overarching story, or how's that work?
I think so at this point in the game at least. There is a thing with if you can see on the screen there, that's one of the roots of the tree of life.
Oh,
The
okay.
tree is like a very big tree that is supposed to. It's like what's keeping everybody alive, from my knowledge at this point.
Is this like a Breath
Uh,
of the Wild situation where you can see it from in the center of the map or something? Like the tree.
I don't actually. Yeah, I
Oh,
guess
there you go.
if that is where the tree would be, that's where I would assume it is. The did you mention the world eaters in that description?
No, I did not. No, I didn't know there was world eaters in it. I just said the
So
new world is
basically,
ending.
those are what are threatening the tree of life. There's these four bosses at the end of each of these routes. Um,
Oh.
this is sort of the one that I've been focusing on right now. There's one over
Oh, I see
here.
him. Is that what the white the
Yeah.
oh, okay, okay.
And so to my knowledge, if all of the world eaters are to be tackled the same as this one, each area has its own sort of like different environment that you have to traverse, and also different things to prepare for you to take on this boss at the end of the route.
Gotcha.
Uh, so a lot of this area we can explore it later, but
So can you not just go run at him and just take him on?
based on how combat works in this game, you probably could. It just probably would be ill-advised. They were sort of making it seem like you should probably beef yourself up a little bit before you go and take on those enemies. Random enemy encounters throughout the game so far, enemies have different levels. So sometimes you can stumble across, I mean, we might hit some in here, yeah. I'll
Oh,
go
there you
ahead
go.
and
Let's see some
hit this
combat.
guy here. He's a level 17.
Oh, I
If we
see.
check my character, I am level 15, so these enemies are a little bit over leveled for me. But so far, it's not really that big of an issue. Most of these fights, you can actually kind of brute force if you're so inclined. Um,
I've seen a lot of hype around the gameplay, and they have the term. I don't think Wung Fu is a real martial art style, so it
mhm.
seems that they kind of coined it. Is it anything anything special that we're, or is it? Do you notice any kind of difference between this and any other typical open world game?
Uh, so I'd say they're taking a lot of influence from a bunch of different types of games. The combat, it's interesting you mentioned Infamous. I hadn't actually thought about Infamous before you mentioned that, but the way that the upgrades work for different moves and stuff definitely feels like it fits.
Hmm.
The other thing, you'll see me shooting my guns here. Uh, I definitely get a vibe of Max Payne with the gunplay.
Hmm.
The
Okay.
You don't have to be as precise to do really well with the weapons, but as you'll see here in a sec, once I reload, if you jump and shoot,
Oh, I
it
see
goes
it.
into slow motion,
I see that. Yeah.
which is very fun. This does not get boring at all.
So is oh, yeah, man, that guy really loves talking. Is there any connection to the narrator? Do you know why he's talking in the background?
I do not. They have not explained that.
Huh.
I take it to be just sort of a
Story
creative
choice.
decision.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Um, the narrator I'm hit or miss on. The performance is obviously pretty good from what I can tell. I mean, I don't really have any complaints from the physical, like, voice performance of it. But as you've mentioned, he does talk a lot. And in the dialogue, we haven't really done any sort of dialogue
Story
with
stuff. Yeah.
NPCs yet. But gosh, I'm getting my butt kicked here. Hold on. uh, they do this sort of the easiest way that I can describe it is they do this thing like R2D2 from Star Wars, where all the creatures have their own language that is then translated by the narrator.
Oh,
And
okay. Is there so is there voice acting, or is there like
there is, but like it's very like Simlish in style. It's like
like
da
wow,
ya
wow,
da
wow,
ya.
like I see, I
Yeah.
see.
And then the narrator
So there's
will
a singular narrator, like that's the only voice actor, like in like English or whatever, like that's there's only
so
one
far,
voice actor.
yes.
Wow, okay, interesting.
Which I think that that might feed into a little bit of the smaller team, smaller budget, that sort of thing.
I feel like that
Um,
also. I mean, personally, I haven't heard. I feel like that would grow old very easily. I mean,
it does.
just
That was
hearing
sort of
one
what I was
person
getting to.
talk.
The the biggest thing is with that back and forth is I catch myself already sort of just wanting to get to the actual meat and potatoes of the conversation. So having to wait for the people to finish their Simlish talking so that the narrator can tell me what's going on is getting a little bit draining. It was certainly an interesting creative choice. I'm just not sure it was the best
The best
choice
move,
for
yeah.
this.
Now,
Yeah.
talking about dial, like, or conversing with NPCs and stuff. Is there any? Damn, he just bad at you with the toilet. Is there
Yeah.
any sort of do you feel there's a branching path, like when you make decisions? Is there like kind of differences, like, oh, I see the story kind of changing as we go, type of thing?
So far, I haven't gotten too deep into that to see if there's like, very branching choices. Most of the choice that I've gotten so far is different dialogue options that reflect the light and dark aura, or like different, dialogue paths to get different information.
Mm,
Um, so far, I haven't made any like, wide
there he is.
stretching
Are the upgrade points like
choices.
doggy treats? Is that what I just saw there?
I think so. That's a good way to describe it. Um, with leveling up, this is more of the RPG stuff. Every level up, you get to add points into one of these uh, stats here. And then you also get those. You get a nice little animation or whatever. But yeah, you do get the little like dog tree upgrade points, and that's what you use to spend on unlocking different moves or different perks. So like, for instance, with the two here, we can do what's a good one here? This one's easy to understand. Add-ons to clothing and equipment have their armor value increase 25%. So you get a bunch of different sort of stat points like that you can adjust or like, upgrade
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
The other thing that I was sort of getting at in the combat but wasn't really commenting on are these psi powers, which you basically map them to each of the face buttons and they do different things. So, real quick, I'll just mess around here with them. My circle one I did use during that fight. You can sprout mushrooms, and then these mushrooms you can use as a bounce pad. So you can use this to initiate a jump into
A
some
slow
slow-mo
motion. Oh, okay.
gunshots, or enemies can also, like light enemies, they can also hit into this and get bounced up in the air. Um, Sort of in a similar vein, the square one will make a dirt fist pop up.
Hmm.
And if you hit an enemy with that, it acts sort of like a launch move, so you'll launch them up into the air. Oh, look at this.
Oh. Oh, I see what this is. Like a wait. Okay, okay. So
Couple of these before you can change times.
I will say, based off of my limited kind of, my only knowledge of this game is I did the press, I read the press release and I did the coverage for it, and now I'm here, kind of watching you play. But I feel that it's very, the game is giving me, and feel correct me if I'm wrong. You're 10 hours into it. It feels very inconsistent in terms of tone. Like, how do I describe it? So like, there's the narrator that's like a singular voice that's kind of going through the story. I also noticed that as when you're jumping on the mushroom and stuff, there's like, or even I think when you're fighting, there's like those kind of comic book style like boing and like kaboom, like those kind of onomatopoeias come up on the screen. It feels really kind of, I don't want to say jarring, but like it just feels weird seeing him on the screen. It doesn't feel like they make sense, at least for me, just watching it. What's up, Fuzzy? How's it
Um,
going?
yeah, it definitely feels a little disjointed, but I can't really tell if that is because of the direction that they're going with it, or if it's just due to how we sort of started everything off by saying it's very ambitious and they're trying to do a lot of things at once.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, yeah, they could
they're
stick
trying
the
to tell the
landing at the
story about
end.
environmental protection. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a weird. I've noticed these things as I kind of as I'm watching, and there's certain like inconsistencies that I just can't like. It feels like it's a of two minds. On one hand, it wants to be this kind of deeper story of like, be careful. Humans are gonna ruin the earth, and on the other hand, it's trying to be silly and kind of. I don't want to say kiddie. I don't think it's kind of. I don't think
I
it's a
think that's
Disney movie, but
appropriate.
I don't think it's a Disney
I
movie,
would
but
say
yeah,
that. Yeah, it definitely has like a sort of whimsical vibe to it. Um, the biggest thing,
Nick is
uh,
number one video game boy. There you go.
yes, thank you, Fuzzy. Uh, Fuzzy's actually a pal of mine, so
Yeah, no, he's introduced himself in the past.
gotcha. Uh, Basically, yeah. So sort of like what we were talking with it's a little all over the place. Is
Yeah,
how I'll basically say that. Uh, don't read into that too much, but
yeah.
uh, basically, I'm just trying to figure out. Like, I wanted to show you this area that was over here because this is where I've sort of
I
been at. You'll,
do like the fact that when you're running it, you go into all fours. It's
yeah,
that's cute.
it's a nice little touch. Um, do
Man,
you have
this
like
really is
other
massive.
questions? Basically, I can Like, if you have like other questions about gameplay, like I can go into it. I feel like I keep like getting into topics and then just like sidetracking myself with
No,
stuff.
no, no,
So
that's completely fine. I mean, that's what it is. We're just kind of having a conversation about it, and then I'm sure we'll see your full thoughts when you get down to the review, and the we'll see the full details. Because I mean, this is kind of like a discussion about the game, its current state, of how long you've played it so far. I'm sure opinions obviously will change, but we don't have to get into like concrete like this game is good or bad right now. I don't, because I think you sound very very conflicted on it in terms of the good and the bad, which is fair because I've certainly seen a good bit of both. Oh, it's like a little town, Hubbledon. See the
find these
NPCs
little
over there.
towns spread throughout and little you know, where the factions lie on the map. They have like little towns. This guy is like a shop.
Shopkeeper claims you won't be able to find better goods anywhere else.
If you see that, that's kind of how the conversations
I
sort of
see.
go. You have these options like stay, trade. If we do that,
Says the place is in high demand.
Oh, I see. You gotta wait for them to end their sim talk before the narrator. Okay, that's very slow. That slows the gameplay down
precisely. And
quite a bit. Fuzzy says looks a lot more open
through it,
worlded
and I've
than I thought
already
it would
caught
be.
myself doing that.
Which one? What was that?
It
I was reading.
very much like first and foremost, this is an open world game. Like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is definitely open world. That's sort of my biggest gripe with the dialogue is having to either skip through or wait to get to the important stuff that I need to know.
Coming to the world and everything else.
I mean, I like this little with this little town. It's very well, it feels kind of lively. Not in terms of that's a lively. People walking around, but the rest of the world feels very rather. It feels very empty, place to place. It reminds me of I was playing another game called Kingdoms of Amalur. We got that to. I think is that also a THQ Nordic game? It may be. They're hooking us up. They're good people over there. Same thing with that one, where it kind of feels a large world, but it's separated. There's a lot going on. Fuzzy says, I imagined, I think is what he's trying to say, it would be more linear combat like DMC5 or something.
Combat-wise, I think they definitely took some inspiration from Devil May Cry. It's definitely not as in-depth as Devil May Cry would be, in that you're really trying to master a bunch of different combos. This sort of has light combos, but it has your melee, swings, and you got your gunshots that you're just trying to do damage on enemies. Like, you're not going to be, at least so far, there's not a whole lot of, like, different types of enemies that you have to take drastically different strategies to take down. Like there's some enemies that have shields that you have to use melee attacks to break their shields. Or like that big guy that I was just fighting, he had like armor, so he wasn't taking gunshot damage.
Yeah,
It was
I did
actually
notice that.
reflecting the bullets back. So like there's some enemies that you do have to take like a little bit of different strategies with, but by and large it ends up feeling mostly the same. You're pretty much just swinging your sword trying to do damage.
Gotcha. So, well, before we wrap it up, we kind of going through the checklist of how we. Oh, Jesus! What? Oh, that's. Oh, you can use that. Oh.
Yeah. So this is another thing. You got mechs in here.
Interesting. Is this for like because you're in this area, or can you just call that down whenever you want?
I believe it's just for this area. As I explore further in the map, it'll be interesting to see if I can test this. But like your armor, you can fully customize this robot as well. There's a whole bunch of different stuff. It has like different melee attacks for enemies that you come across here. But the main thing that you use this for, if you notice when I get out, there's that hypoxia zone warning.
Oh, I see.
Basically, this area is unbreathable. So if you're here and
For
this meter gets to 0,
you
it'll kill
die.
me.
Oh, I see the health going down. Yeah, and so this keeps you alive. Oh, it's a duck.
This
That's
keeps you alive.
I see. It's a duck.
Yeah.
So okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just gonna say this is sort of one of the other interesting aspects of the game that I do like is that parts of the environment are hazardous, as you would expect with like an apocalyptic sort of wastelandish setting. And there's different types. So this here is a hypoxia zone, meaning you can't breathe. The other one that I've gone to are like very highly irradiated zones where you need like a biocontamination suit to be able to move around inside of it. And I think there's maybe like a couple others too that I haven't come across yet. But it makes each area going, like each area that you go to, it makes it a little bit more interesting and a little bit more fun to try to diagnose how you're gonna move around rather than just, randomly walking around.
So okay, so going off the checklist, we've gone through. Oh, did you die from damage from there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we've talked about story, gameplay, and we've also touched on visuals. So the last thing, at least on the checklist that I have of the stuff to talk about, is sound. How's the sound design? We hear it a little bit in the background, but it feels rather empty. I don't think I've seen the audio levels move much, other than when the narrator's talking.
Right. I won't say the sound is bad. It's not bad. I guess how I would describe it is it hasn't really left much of an impression on me yet. A lot
Has
of
there
things
been any music since we started this video?
There is in the background while you're exploring, and when you're in combat, there's music. It's
I guess I blanked
very
it out.
much background music.
Yeah, I did not process that there was music apparently.
It's very light, like string instruments. Usually, the thing that I have noticed is there's not a whole lot of different types of music. Like pretty much the exploring music is the exploring music in every area, and like I think maybe the music changes when it's daytime versus nighttime, but they use a lot of the same songs when you're exploring each area.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, I think that's all I had on my end. Unless is there anything else you wanted to touch on before we wrap up this first impressions?
Not too much to really add. We covered a lot of what I at least was gonna think about. Like talked about like the gear system. We talked about character leveling up. We talked about a lot of the overarching stuff in the game. I guess I could mention with this Deadeye, whenever you do create a new character, you do get to choose between a number of classes. I'm pretty fond of the gunslinger kind of trope, so I went with a gunslinger type character, and that's sort of what I'm trying to build, trying to put my upgrade points into weapon skills, and also eventually, like I mentioned, getting a one-handed weapon to have some really fast moving attacks. But yeah, overall, I mean, you explore the world much like you do in a lot of other open world games, so not really a whole lot to not really a whole lot to comment on in that regard. This is kind of funny. You pee on these flags to get fast travel points.
Oh. Marking your territory. Got it.
Yeah.
So, okay, the last question that I'll throw at you. You mentioned that you like to kind of go with the lone wolf gunslinger kind of trope, and I know that you're a very big fan of Fallout, where you can do that kind of. You can really live out whatever kind of fantasy, if you will, that you want. Oh, there's a pet. You can keep it as a pet.
What are we doing, chat?
Yeah, chat. Whatever you guys want to do, let us know. So, how I keep saying so apparently in this review, and now that I've noticed it, it's like I can't get it out of my head. But anyway, in Fallout, you can really live out whatever fantasy you want in terms of Fuzzy says pet and keep. So there you go. you can kind of live out whatever fantasy you would like. Do you think you're able to really live out the same? Is that, can you realize your character how you wanted it? Nightmare Fuel also says pet and keep, so that works out well. Can you live out that character's fantasy as you hoped, or is it kind of just, in your head you're imagining that he's cool, whatever, and in the game he's just kind of meh? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So far, that's probably how I would describe it. Like, it's a lot of in my head. I'm kind of making it cool.
Yeah.
Maybe whenever I get more into the world politics of the different tribes and stuff, I can, live that out a little bit better. But like so far, I haven't really come across many opportunities for very drastically different role playing. Like, it's very much like you get to live out the fantasy of a mutated raccoon creature in a post-apocalypse. Whereas, as opposed to
what we all dream, every boy's dream.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Nick, thanks for giving us the little tour of Biomutant. And what's the world called? The New World? Is that what the map is called? The setting?
Maybe.
I think it's called the New World. At least that's what I think I remember from reading the press release. But anyway, thanks for the tour. Obviously, we appreciate it. For the YouTube people, thanks for watching. Again, I want to make sure you guys keep this in mind. There's a few things. First of all, this is just a first impressions. Fuzzy said, would get this if it was a $30 or $40, which is like $60 a little too much. That's fair. I think this is definitely, at least from my personal opinion from watching this so far, I think it's a game I would be willing to dive into based on on a sale. But obviously, first of all, thank you to the publisher for giving us a copy of this game so we can check it out, and Nick can put hours into it and write a review on it. You can find his full review when it goes up on RespawnStation.com. So there you go. Secondly, this is, of course, the first impressions. He's probably a third of or so of the way into the story. Those are pretty cool animals. Or, I don't know what, yeah. I don't know. They look like cats, but with mushrooms on their head. Pretty cool. This is about a third of the way in. So this is still relatively first impressions, not too deep into the game in terms of the story overall. He's only explored, as you saw, a certain bit of the map. So keep that in mind before you go off and start spreading out whatever you think we thought of this game. And lastly, if you want to check it out, head on over to RespawnStation.com and you'll have all the information you want on it right there available for you. I think that's all I wanted to say. So for the YouTube people, thanks for listening or watching, depending on how you want to do it, as he gets defeated. And we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.